Hey guys, it's Katelyn. I wanted to give my takeaways from Dr. Bennet Omalu's talk tonight because it was honestly one of the most motivational talks I've ever heard. And that's saying something because I've heard a lot of motivational talks. So if you're not familiar with Dr. Bennet Omalu's work, he's from Pittsburgh. He's not from Pittsburgh, he's from Nigeria, but he did a lot of his main work in Pittsburgh, working under Dr. Cyril Wecht. And he did a lot of forensic pathology and basically worked in autopsies. So he discovered chronic traumatic encephalopathy, which is CTE, which is the condition that a lot of football players that have aggression issues or dementia later in life have suffered with. And he's taken a lot of flack for that from the NFL, from other scientists and doctors. But he's done some amazing research and amazing work in that field. But his message tonight was so much more than that. He just has what strikes me the most about him is that he has such a conviction in his beliefs. So he talked at first about his struggle in his upbringing and seeing a lot of violence in Nigeria and how that caused some depression within him, a lot of depression throughout his life, and that and other causes. And then coming to America, to him, he said, was, he looked at it as this country that's founded on ingenuity and creativity, but he didn't experience that necessarily in the way that he thought he would when coming. But what I thought was cool was that despite all of that, and despite depression, and despite what he had been through, and despite any ways his research had been suppressed, because of what he was trying to say against the NFL and different things like that, his overruling message was to be yourself. And he said there were some really defining points in his career, like when he took in the body of Mike Webster, which was the autopsy that eventually led to his discovery. Mike Webster is a football player. It eventually led to his discovery of this disease. He said there was something he saw in Mike that he connected with. So Mike later in life had experienced a lot of aggression and going kind of off the deep end, and a lot of people were ridiculing him for that. And there was something that Dr. Omalu really connected with, that and the spirit of that. So he talked a lot about the connected spirit in all of us, and then also listening to your own spirit and your own truth. So rather than letting what he calls conformational intelligence influence you, really staying true to yourself and being you. And by enhancing even a single other person, we enhance the world, we enhance ourselves. Because we're all connected, by us being our true selves, that's how we lift everyone else up. And I totally agree with that message. I think it's so amazing to look at the ways in which we're all connected, but also how that can sometimes be negative. So what he was talking about with conformational intelligence in his field related to people that were saying that his work wasn't valid because we've been taught to idolize football and idolize the things that he was showing in his research were actually causing a lot of harm and danger. So anyways, his bigger message of us all being connected and us all being true to ourselves as our greater purpose and to lift and enhance all of society was a really powerful message. And I'm probably not doing it justice explaining it right here. I have some clips from his talk that I'm going to post, but it was so powerful. After the talk, there was some Q&A, and I asked him what other defining moments really stood out in his life that helped contribute to the conviction he has for his beliefs. And one of the things that he mentioned, a story he told that I thought was really powerful, was he said for a while when he was getting all of the negative feedback, and even sometimes from the families of the players that he was trying to help, the football players, he had this moment where his inner voice and his inner spirit was reminding him of everything that the people that came before him did so that he could be where he was at. So like I said in the beginning of the talk, he talked about a lot of the violence in Nigeria when he was growing up or when he was a child. And so what people sacrificed to get him to be in a position where he could become a doctor and come to America his small bit of suffering was nothing to complain about. And on top of that, he needed to go through that small bit of suffering to help the next generation. So the way that applies to me and to all of us, I think, is that when we're complaining about the day-to-day grind of maybe some things about our job we don't like, or some things that we just have to push through and do even if we don't like them, when we take a second to stop and think about the people that came before us to give us the opportunities we have today, even just to live in this country or to have the educational or financial opportunities that we have in this world, our small bit of suffering is nothing compared to that. And on top of that, us putting in what may feel tough for us is going to help future generations and help the collective consciousness as a whole rise up. So his message was incredible. I don't know if he has more stuff on social media. I'm definitely going to look into it, see if there's any other talks of his on YouTube. He was one of the most inspiring speakers I've ever heard. And it was such an impactful talk, all of his stories and how he related not just his incredible research and work, which I'm fascinated by that, but also to how that changed him and affected him as a person, and how him staying true to his beliefs really affected his work. So it was really moving. It was really inspiring. And his take-home message was that if you stay true to you and you be you, you can't lose. And on top of that, that's what makes what seems impossible actually possible. So to dream all those dreams, but then know that by you being you, that's how that becomes what it is. Because he was saying his job and his career, it was never about him. It was always about how can he serve the greater purpose. And he still was one of the most humble people I have ever met. He still looks at himself as kind of a nobody, which is shocking to me. And yet humbling in that we all kind of need to look at ourselves in that way of we're not in it for ourselves or for fame. It's where can we serve the greater good. And the fact that he looks at it that way and just focuses on where we can take us all rise up and enhance us all. And by him doing his work, it was to enhance us all, and how that brings joy to the whole and joy to him. And I just think that's something we can all take away from that, is to be ourselves and remember that it's for the greater good and it's serving all of humanity. So it was a fantastic talk. I'm so glad I was there tonight. It was an honor to meet him and to hear from him and to hear his story. And so those are my takeaways to share with you guys. Again, I probably didn't do it justice. It was an amazing message, so full of passion and so inspiring. If you ever get a chance to hear him talk, definitely do it. If you haven't seen the movie Concussion, which was based on his story with Will Smith playing him, it was amazing. And there's also a PBS documentary, Frontline did it also on his research, which is really, it's more specific towards the research, not so much him as a person, but also really impactful. So inspiring message, and I hope I did some justice in passing that on, because I just feel honored to have been there tonight. So if you guys have any questions about it, let me know, and have a great night.